My name is the Honorable Andrea Hawkins Camper. I am a Kentucky Colonel, and I am absolutely delighted to be with you all this morning. 2 months ago, my brother-in-law passed quite suddenly from this world into the next. He'd been ill for some time, so this was not unexpected. And despite the heroic efforts of his caregiving team, we have now been left without his light in the world. My wife's family, though, are lifelong Baha'is, all the way back to when their ancestors assisted Abdul Baha coming to the United States in 1912. Family has taught me much about how the interlocking pieces of my own theology work, more than I ever learned in a seminary classroom, all while they remind me that to create justice, we must first love ourselves and the world we inhabit. Now, as I move through the world with David no longer in it, I return to these old ideas of movement and companionship. And for me, this starts with the Emmaus story. That story in the Gospel of Luke about two travelers meeting Jesus after the crucifixion, but they didn't know that it was Jesus until later after they all shared a meal. I had questions. So I did what any self-respecting scholar with a penchant for dead languages and a healthy distrust of empire would do. I borrowed digital copies of the earliest texts I could find, and I started doing a lot of really boring, tedious work that I immediately regretted. Because as it turns out, my ancient Greek skills are ancient. But I eventually got to where I was comfortable enough with my work to call it done. And this is what formed that text that was shared during the story for all ages. It is more bare bones than what we're accustomed to hearing. It is more human. And if the story itself is to be trusted, I find it much more worthy of the text that we were originally given. Your mileage, of course, may vary. The point of all this is that in the story, Jesus, a human, travels with Cleopas, another human, and a third person, also a human. Three humans walking, talking, breathing, doing the thing that keeps them safe on the road by being together. And it was only when they all got to Emmaus and had dinner that things went a little sideways. This is not the point. Companionship in the moment is the point. Everyone kept their sandals on. Also very much the point. And now it's story time. My 18th birthday was what I believe is the right terminology, a certified banger. I spent the better part of a week in a recliner recovering from having my wisdom teeth extracted. Now, I am too young to have had that quintessential 1960s or 1970s Gen X experience. But I can tell you, after a week of listening to Pink Floyd on repeat and a prescription of painkillers, I had a new understanding of just what I had missed. The oral surgery was an unexpected and unpleasant surprise to our family's post-Christmas calendar. My birthday arrives 2 weeks after Christmas, just about a week before we would start basketball season, pep band, and the chamber band state competitions in earnest. There was a lot going on. except I was also going on a 3-day senior retreat that weekend. If there's one thing that my camper lineage does well, it's everything, everywhere, all at once. And Mr. Murphy is in the on deck circle. The United Methodist Chrysalis Retreat was designed for young adults, and it was based on the adults only lay empowerment Road to Emmaus retreat, itself based on the Catholic Cursillo lay development retreat, itself based on a different version of that story from the Gospel of Luke. There's no quiz for this background information. Trust me on that. The important part is how that retreat shaped my call to ministry, shaped my understanding of our shared call to do good in the world, and it all originated with a single sentence that was spoken in the dark. A John 1:5 sentence, actually. The light shines in the darkness, but the darkness does not overcome it. That sentence has reappeared throughout my life, inviting me into a deeper relationship with that which is God, the ultimate, that divine source known by so many names and none. Over the years, I've heard that phrase differently depending on where I was and what I was doing, with understood replacing overcome, exists instead of shines. You get the idea. Different words, same meaning, because dead languages are fun. There is something about that sentence, something about the duality of how it keeps bringing me back, that warranted a deeper look. And maybe it's the Gnostic in me, maybe it's the curmudgeon, I don't know. The light shines through. I even heard that phrase once when I was driving up the side of a mountain in Colorado. Admittedly, what I heard there was, in the mountains, you remember who and what you are called to be, which is the same words, it's the same meaning, it's just a different medium. Ultimately, though, we can metaphor this and we can exegesis that, but psychoanalysis will always win with the inside straight. At the heart of everything, we seek companionship with each other, with the world, with however we understand the ultimate. About the sandals. In the Hebrew scriptures, there is a story of Joshua who one day, when he was near the city of Jericho, came across a young woman and asked her, "Are you with us or for our enemies?" The young woman famously replied, "Neither, and you should take off your sandals because this is holy ground." What happened to Jericho afterwards is not the point of this story. Because just as there was when Moses hid his face from a burning bush and took his sandals off, there was still a form of companionship in that moment. A human and the ultimate conversing, breaking bread over a meal, the light shining through, as it were. In my experience, that light gives us grace enough to breathe when things are a little too real. When we need to let go of the casual, and the casual hurts, we humans and those divines and that universe can lay on us in the snap of a finger. To breathe, yes, and to let go. To grieve the what could have beens and will now never be's. To celebrate everything that is. This is the covenantal circle that binds us as Unitarian Universalists together, as individuals, as a congregation of congregations. My Christian history, including the parts of betrayal that are in it, sits comfortably now with my Norse Reconstructionist and Lakota experiences. They are different aspects of the same source, as it were. My spouse's experience as a Baha'i gave them the framework to understand Unitarian Universalism in a way I never can. The holy is the holy, and we are but her prophets. Everything else is just shades of the same. The Unitarian minister and former United States Senate chaplain, the Reverend Edward Everett Hale, wrote a reminder to us all, and it is perhaps one of my favorite quotes from our history. I am only one, but I am one. I cannot do everything, but I can do something. And because I cannot do everything, I will not refuse to do the something that I can do. A United Methodist youth retreat may have shaped my call to ministry, but it did not define it, neither in the forming or in the casting out. At Unitarian Universalist Seminary in Chicago framed it, but again, never defined it. Today, a congregation in Florida journeys with me, and I with them, as together we seek the people of the world who want nothing more than the gentle touch of a compassionate soul. People craving affirmation, desperate for their own people. People yearning for the presence of now. People who need a companion through their darkness. People who need a light. People waiting for a people just like us. Yes, people waiting for a people just like us, searching for us even. My friends, let me empower you this morning. You are that light to more people than you can possibly know. People you have cared for, care for others who care for still more humans journeying along their own individual Emmaus roads. It's going to look different for them as it did for me. It's going to look different than it looks for you. But somewhere in each of us is a need to connect, a desire to light the spark of something transcendent and wonderful. We are not stilled sandals in the desert, forgotten, cast off, removed from the feet of the body human, the body divine. We are sandals in motion, hearts aflame for the common work of connection and restoration, of creating and maintaining the covenants that bind us together as Unitarian Universalists. We are companions journeying together, all in the service of love. Put another way, we are holy ground everywhere we go. And let us live into that promise for all of our days. Selah.